I know that Matthew Stafford is not a Super Bowl winner. And he might just forever be a really good quarterback that never gets it done to the playoffs, and so thus we never think about him in that light. But you can't blame him for the busted coaches and the busted draft picks and the guys that left to go elsewhere and the busted trades, the overall dysfunction that happens with the Lions. Now, look, I would like to see Matthew Stafford have more than one Pro Bowl on his resume, nearly a decade of the NFL. He's got one Pro Bowl. You know, if you're an elite quarterback, you should make more than that. But sometimes that is just popularity. And if you play in big games and you play in the playoffs, certainly, well, then you get voted to the Pro Bowl. But for a guy that essentially averages 4,000 yards per season, and a guy that has started every game for 8 straight years, and a guy that for a franchise has not really had a franchise QB since Bobby Lane, certainly not one of his caliber. He's the best quarterback in that franchise's history since the 50s and 60s. You know, I think he deserves more credit than he gets. And Mraz, that's a pretty good sign of toughness when you've got a quarterback going out there and playing with fractures in his back and not throwing interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, if he can manage the pain and not be turning the ball over, that's incredible courage and not a guy you should be knocking every turn and every twist he makes.
He gets hurt because he doesn't look the part, right? Because he has the backwards cap and he had the shaggy hair, and because he's one of these gunslinger SEC quarterbacks. I think because he doesn't look the part of like diplomat or the Tom Brady, Drew Brees mold.
He's not clean cut with eye black. If he was clean cut and wearing eye black and was just a quarterback that was more viewed as tough that way instead of a pretty boy SEC, I'm going to throw the ball all over the place, I think he'd be more respected up north. And I said this to you pre-show. The truth is, if you slapped a star on his helmet, he would be looked at the same way we look at Tony Romo, borderline Hall of Famer, and they're the same player. But because he has that lion on his helmet, the long hair, less success, putrid franchise, not nearly the star quality franchise, we view him, frankly, as a turd in the bowl.
Okay, so I don't think Tony Romo's a borderline Hall of Famer.
Many do. You think he's in?
No.
I think a lot think he's in.
No, he's not. No.
I don't either.
No. But even if, we say that Matthew Stafford's not, from a popularity standpoint, a borderline Hall of Famer, if you gave Matthew Stafford Tony Romo's career, okay, you put him on the Cowboys for those 10 years, and you surrounded him with the players that Romo had, the wide receivers that Romo had, a T.O., a Des Bryant, et cetera. Granted, he had Calvin Johnson, but you played in all of those big games, and of course he plays on Thanksgiving every year, but everybody watches that game to see who the Lions are playing, not for the Lions. If you gave him all of the attention Romo did in that Cowboys franchise and Jerry Jones loving him up and all of that and Jason Witten, would Matthew Stafford have had more success than Romo?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes, he would have.
I agree. I think, Romo won 2 playoff games over the course of his career, I believe.
And again, one versus Matt Stafford's team that had a screwed up call that happened. And the other, I think, I could be wrong, was versus a Viking team that didn't even have a quarterback.
I think it was a Washington win. I think it was a wild card win over the...
No, it was a wild card win over McNabb and the Eagles on Saturday.
That's right.
Never mind.
That's exactly right. They beat the Eagles in a wild card game. That's basically one of Romo's most significant victories ever. You can't tell me Stafford, with the parts that Romo had for those 10 years in Dallas, with the attention Romo got, would not have done more with the Cowboys.
Yeah, or at the very least, when the Cowboys had a couple of those monster teams, like in 2007 when they lost the divisional round to the Giants and won the division that year, Matt Stafford in for Tony Romo in that game, all things considered. Are the Cowboys worse off in that game? I don't think so.
I don't think they're worse off in any game.
Right. But I'm saying even in the big games when you want to kill or make excuses for Romo where Stafford might get killed for some of his moments, I'm sorry. I look at those guys as the same guy.
If you would have put Matthew Stafford on the Ravens for all of the years Joe Flacco was the starter, does Matthew Stafford go to a Super Bowl and consistently win playoff games?
Yes. I do.
I think so, too.
I do. I think he probably has a Super Bowl ring if he's within that. I think it's more about the organization than the player.
If Matthew Stafford had Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, Haloti Ngata on his defense and, was asked to throw a couple of big throws a game, which Flacco definitely did in that Super Bowl run and had some great games. But if he's asked mostly to allow the running game and the defense to dictate the game and then have to make a couple of big throws around that, Stafford can do that.
And what has Stafford had? The ghost of Dre Bly at the end, the ghost of Haloti Ngata? Like, he has not had that on defense. Has not had it.
Well, they had Ndamukong Suh.
Okay.
And Nick Fairley.
Right. Fair. They had Nick Fairley. Did Nick Fairley really pan out to what we thought he was going to be?
No.
And offensively, it took to just this year getting Kerryon Johnson. Their running game has been atrocious. They didn't have a guy go over 100 yards for 3 years.